Sip and Talkers. Welcome back to another session of Caffeine and Conversation. I am currently vibrating on a frequency that can only be described as double shot espresso happiness.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in your time zone. I can definitely tell you're vibrating today.
Oh, absolutely. The sun is out, the coffee is hitting just right. It is a fantastic morning.
Well, I am very glad you have that energy because, I'm here to be the brakes to your gas pedal. And today the road is, it's a bit bumpy.
Yeah, you always keep us grounded. And honestly, we need that today because I woke up feeling great, but then I opened my phone.
Oh, no. The timeline strikes again.
The timeline always strikes. And I saw this narrative that just keeps popping up in my feed, and we really have to talk about it.
You're talking about the whole fearlessness debate, right? The stuff going around online?
Exactly. It's this viral argument floating around, mostly coming from certain nationalist corners of the internet in Asia. But it's really bleeding into everything right now.
Right. The basic premise being that Chinese people are fearless and not afraid to die, while Taiwanese people are somehow cowardly because they were afraid to die.
Yes. That is exactly the punchline they keep repeating. They frame the willingness to just throw your life away as the ultimate virtue.
And they frame the desire to actually live your life as this massive character flaw. It's a fascinating, if, somewhat disturbing piece of rhetoric.
It really is. And it got me thinking, does being afraid to die actually make you a coward? Or does it just make you, sane?
That is the million-dollar question for us today. And honestly, I think we just need to tackle this head on.
Let's do it. Let's make this our anti-war special. I want us to really dismantle this logic, completely deconstruct what this fear actually means.
I'm all in. But to do that properly, I think we have to skip our usual warm-up banter.
Agreed.
We can't talk about the fear of death in the abstract. We really need to look at where death is actually happening on an industrial scale right now.
Right. We have to look at the current reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to look at Europe. We need to look at the reality of early 2026.
Okay, let's teleport everyone listening right to the front lines. It's Monday, February 23rd, 2026. We are entering the 5th year of the conflict in Ukraine.
And if you just glance at the headlines, it looks like a paradox.
Totally. You see things like new offensives or forces on the move. It sounds super dynamic on the news.
Right. It sounds like things are happening fast. But that is just the illusion of the news cycle. If you zoom in on the actual map, the reality is this suffocating stalemate.
Suffocating is definitely the right word for it, because when the headlines say they are advancing, how fast are we actually talking?
Well, let's look at the numbers. Based on a really comprehensive analysis from the Center for Strategic and International Studies that just came out last month, the average rate of advance for Russian forces in late 2025 and early 2026 was painfully slow.
How slow? Like a few miles a week?
Try 15 to 70 meters per day.
Wait, let me just pause and process that. 15 meters?
15 meters.
Are you kidding me? My driveway is longer than 15 meters.
It's true. It's not modern maneuver warfare. It is literally grinding human lives into the dirt just to gain inches.
You're telling me a global superpower is burning through billions of dollars and thousands of lives to capture a driveway's worth of mud per day?
On a good day, maybe they get 70 meters. That's roughly the distance from home plate to the outfield wall in a baseball stadium.
Wow.
And to get that distance, they are pulverizing absolutely everything in their path.
Why is it so slow, though? Is the defense just that good, or what's happening?
It's because the battlefield is entirely transparent now. You cannot hide anymore.
Right, the drones.
Exactly. There's so many sensors, so many satellites. If you mass any troops together for a big blitzkrieg-style attack, you just get wiped out by artillery before you even start the engine.
So the only way to move is what? Just sending tiny groups forward?
Tiny, almost suicidal groups. It's like World War I, but broadcast in 4K video.
God, that's grim. So how much territory does Russia actually control right now?
Currently, they control about 19% of Ukrainian territory. That's roughly 116,000 square kilometers.
And where is the fighting mostly concentrated right now?
The hottest zones are in the east, in Donetsk, places like Pokrovsk and Myrnarod, and also down south in Zaporizhia.
But I've also been seeing reports about new fronts opening up, something about the border up north.
Yes, just this month, in February 2026, we are seeing Russian forces trying to create these so-called security buffer zones near Sumy and Kharkiv.
Just cross-border attacks.
Right. They're trying to stretch the Ukrainian lines forced them to pull their best units away from the eastern trenches.
So Russia claims they have the strategic initiative, but the cost to keep that initiative is just astronomical. It's a pure war of attrition.
It really is. They are just betting on whose blood runs dry first.
And speaking of running dry, let's talk about the equipment, because I keep seeing videos of what look like actual museum pieces rolling out onto the battlefield.
You're not imagining that. The equipment losses are staggering. Since the start, visual confirmation shows Russia has lost over 11,690 tanks.
Over 11,000 tanks. That number is, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
It's a massive loss of heavy armor. And because of that, they are literally pulling Cold War-era tanks out of deep storage to compensate.
Wait, I remember seeing something about T-55s. Are they actually using those?
Yes, they are. They're pulling out T-55s and T-62s.
For our Sip&Talkers who aren't huge military history buffs, the T-55 is from the 1950s, right?
Exactly. This is a tank designed back when Elvis Presley was topping the charts.
That is insane. A 1950s tank facing modern anti-tank weapons in 2026.
Well, they mostly use them as crude, indirect artillery now. They park them a few kilometers back and lob shells, but it really shows the desperation.
And what about Ukraine? What are their losses looking like?
Ukraine has lost roughly 5,571 tanks and armored vehicles.
Okay, so a heavy cost for them too, but the ratio definitely favors the defender here.
Absolutely. But if you want to know what's really defining this war in 2026, it's not the tanks.
It's the drone hellscape, isn't it?
It is a drone experiment lab out there.
Yeah.
The air is literally never empty.
I've heard journalists describe the sound. They say it's just this constant, terrifying lawnmower buzz above you at all times.
It's psychological torture. Russia is using mass swarms. They're heavily relying on Iranian Shahed 136s and their own Geranium-2s.
How many are we talking about?
Just one night recently, in February, they launched nearly 300 drones in a single wave.
300 in one night. That's not an air raid. That's a swarm migration.
It's designed to completely saturate air defenses. But on the flip side, Ukraine has heavily leaned into FPV drones to compensate for their shell hunger.
The first-person view drones, those are like the little quadcopters, right?
Basically, yes, but strapped with shaped charge explosives. Because they lack traditional artillery shells, they've turned these cheap drones into their primary precision weapons.
So it's high-tech versus raw flesh. There's just no cover anymore.
None. And Ukraine is also pushing the envelope with deeper strikes. They've developed the Flamingo missile.
The Flamingo. Okay, that sounds like a pool float, not a weapon.
It's deceptively named, for sure. It's a new long-range missile they're using for deep strikes into Russian logistics hubs. It's somewhat of an answer to Russia's Oreshnik missile.
Oh, right, the Oreshnik. That's the hypersonic one. But you don't use a hypersonic missile to take 15 meters of dirt, do you?
No, you don't. For the dirt, you use men.
And this is where we really have to pivot. We have to stop looking at the machines and the drones and start looking at the human cost.
We do. Because fearlessness sounds very cool in an internet comment section.
Yeah.
But what does it look like on a casualty report?
It's heartbreaking. Entering this fourth or fifth year, depending on how you count it, the total casualties killed, wounded, missing are approaching 2 million people.
2 million. It's staggering.
It's basically an entire major city just wiped off the map or physically broken. How does that break down between the two sides?
Russian casualties are estimated at approximately 1.26 million.
1.26 million. Let's just sit with that for a second. That is the heaviest loss for any major power since World War II.
And it's not just a statistic. You have to remember, 1.26 million represents an entire generation of men that is just wiped out.
Right. Despite Russia's massive size, the economic pressure of that has to be showing. You can't just subtract that many working-age males from an economy and expect it to function normally.
You really can't. The scale always wins theory is actively being challenged by the sheer cost of this slow grind. We're already seeing projections for a 7% cut in Russian defense spending for 2026.
Wow, a 7% cut during an active war. That tells you everything. And what about the numbers for Ukraine?
Estimates put Ukrainian casualties between 500,000 and 600,000. Plus, you have 10.6 million Ukrainians displaced.
10.6 million. That's almost a quarter of their pre-war population.
Oh, exactly. 24% of the country uprooted.
Okay, so keeping all of this tragedy, all of this real physical blood and mud in mind, let's transition over to Asia.
Let's move from the physical trenches to the digital trenches.
Yes, across the Taiwan Strait. Because while people are living a nightmare in Europe, you have these keyboard warriors who seem to think the world just isn't chaotic enough right now.
The Little Pinks.
The Little Pinks. Which, by the way, sounds like a pop band, but their rhetoric is incredibly dark.
It's a digital mob phenomenon. And from late 2024 through early 2026, the rhetoric we've observed from them has just become so callous.
Give us some examples of the slogans they're using.
One of the most prominent ones is, "Keep the island, not the people."
Keep the island, not the people. I mean, that is literally genocidal rhetoric masquerading as patriotism.
Exactly. It's horrifying. And another popular one is breakfast in Taipei.
Breakfast in Taipei. Okay, so they're trivializing a massive amphibious invasion into a weekend vacation itinerary.
Right. They have this complete video game mentality. For these online nationalists, war is just simplified into red and green dots on a map. It's missile special effects and keyboard shortcuts.
Because they've never actually experienced it.
They have never been taught to respect their own lives, so they absolutely cannot empathize with the pain of others.
Which brings us right back to that fearless myth. They sit online and type out how fearless the Chinese military is. But let's challenge that propaganda with some hard logic right now.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the one-child policy. Western think tank data shows that over 70% of PLA soldiers are only children. 70%.
It's a massive factor.
If an only child dies in combat, the entire family line ends. Think about the social instability that mass casualties would cause for the CCP. You'd have millions of parents with no legacy and nothing left to lose.
It would be absolutely devastating internally, which might explain some of the internal military shakeups we've seen.
Exactly. The purges in the rocket force back in 2024 and 2025, if the military was truly fearless and completely ready to go, why are they constantly changing the leadership?
It definitely highlights a gap between the online bravado and the actual internal confidence. But we also have to distinguish between internet trolls and official policy.
Fair point. What is the official stance?
The CCP officially states that it, quote, does not promise to renounce the use of force.
Does not promise to renounce the use of force, so it's still a systemic option for them, not just empty emotional talk on the internet.
Right. It means war remains a real tool on the table for the regime.
Okay, so if the authoritarian side says fearlessness is a virtue, let's go back to our core question. Why are Taiwanese people afraid to die?
Let's reframe that completely. It is not cowardice.
No, it is a high valuation of individual life. That's the democratic logic. In a democracy like Taiwan or here in the US, every single person is a one. You are not a statistic.
You have families to protect, you have dreams to pursue, you have truths to speak.
Exactly. Fear of death in this context is actually a massive compliment.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It means you have a life worth living, and you live in a society that actually respects your existence.
Right. If your life is terrible and you have no freedom, maybe you don't care if you lose it. But if you have liberty, you want to stay here.
Contrast that with the authoritarian logic. When a regime tells you that sacrifice is glorious, what they're actually saying to you is, your life doesn't matter to me.
That's the bottom line. A regime that does not treat its own people as human beings, like we see in China or Russia, will never, ever treat its neighbors as human beings.
And if we want to look at the broader global context of this logic, we have to look at Iran between 2022 and 2026.
Yes, the internal war going on there.
The woman, life, freedom protests that were triggered by the death of Mahsa Amini.
The stats out of Iran are just as chilling in their own way. Over 500 protesters killed.
And including over 60 minors. Children. The regime uses executions purely as political tools to maintain control.
So let's connect all these dots for you listening right now. Russia uses its soldiers as literal meat to gain 15 meters of dirt.
China uses hypernationalism to completely mask the actual cost of human life.
And Iran executes its own youth just to maintain the grip of power.
The pattern is undeniable. These regimes view human beings as fuel. We are just resources to them, not ends in ourselves.
The logic of the little pink cheering for war online is the exact same logic as the Iranian morality police. They both place an abstract goal, whether it's territory or ideology, high above human breath and human blood.
It's prioritizing the map over the people living on it.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up today's conversation, what is the ultimate verdict here?
I think the key takeaway is that whenever governments start talking about strategy, we as citizens must insist on talking about human lives.
Yes. When someone casually says on the news that force is an option, our immediate response has to be, who pays the price?
Because true maturity as a civilization isn't about who is less afraid to die.
Not at all. It's about who cherishes being alive more. The fear of death is the firewall of civilization.
It really is. I have to admit, this was a really heavy topic today, but I think it was incredibly necessary.
It was heavy, but we made it through.
We did. And honestly, after talking about all of this, I feel like I'm glowing with the appreciation of just being here.
I feel the exact same way. Just the fact that we can sit here, drink coffee, and freely discuss being afraid of death without actually fearing for our safety.
That is the privilege of civilization.
It is. And to celebrate that privilege, I say we go get some delicious food right now. I am thinking a massive bowl of ramen.
Oh, ramen sounds perfect right now. I'm completely on board.
Great. But before we go, slurp some noodles. A quick call to action for everyone listening. If you enjoy our conversations, please make sure to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast on whatever platform you use.
Yes, please do. And also, we want to give a huge shout out to our old friend Mickey. You have to check out Mickey to Life on YouTube for his latest travel vlogs.
Yes, Mickey to Life. It is the perfect palate cleanser if you need a break from geopolitics and just want to see some beautiful travel content.
Highly recommend it.
All right, that is our time for today. Thank you so much for joining us, Sip and Talkers.
See you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.